So I'm making this video as a way to process pretty much the last pretty much my entire childhood going into adulthood, because I've been realizing that the upbringing that I have went through and the upbringing I had has affected me a lot more than I realize. And I kind of always knew that, like, it did, but I'm just now realizing how much that it changed my entire personality. And I'm saying this because I'm starting to connect back with who I was as a kid. And yeah, I'm just connecting back with myself, and I'm realizing the drastic change and difference in who I was, who I became. By the time I got to not even adulthood, by the time I got to the teenage years, I was already a shell of myself. And then once I got into adulthood, I just partook in actions that just helped numb that, the last, I'm 26 right now. So like literally the last, from 2016 till now, so the last 9 years, every waking moment or me going through life the goal was to just escape or just numb myself. Whether that's with like either drugs yeah, it was mostly just drugs, honestly, or even like porn or like sex I don't know if I could say those words here, but yeah, the last 10 years I just been numbing myself. And the worst part is that, like, because sometimes I think, like, damn, why did that shit have to go down like that? Like, I'm at the point where it did go down like that. And, I can't change it. That is a part of myself. And I have been able to accept that pain and turn it to, like, growth, or be able to alchemize it and make it work for me. But for the longest, that shit was working against me. And so to get into a little bit more detail, I say I grew up in, it was a very emotionless family, but yet very emotional. So like, it was, so my parents, so like, I remember I'd look at like movies, or like I'd go to people's houses and I would see like their parents like sharing a bed, and then I'd look, even as a young kid, like, oh, why do my parents like sleep in different rooms? And like, I would never see them like hold hands or hug, or like even say, hey, I love you, or just anything like that. And I would see them occasionally say like, hey, honey, or this and that. But I remember there was one time that one of my parents gave another parent a kiss on the cheek, and I could remember like visibly seeing that parent kind of like scold, or like shrink a little bit, like, maybe because us kids who were there, we were looking or something like that. But I don't know. But so when it comes to emotionless, there was that, but at the same time it was very emotional, as in like, it was there was a lot of like intense, like darker emotions, a lot of anger, there was a lot of fear, a lot of judgment. And I'd say in this situation, like, because we were kids, so it's like kids don't really come up with that, you know. I'd say it was just because, like, pretty much my parents were just, they were, they didn't have much emotional capacity. And I don't mean this as a slight to them, but I kind of do mean this as a slight to them because they were very self-righteous, like, just, so I don't know if it's I mean, I'd say it's a lot of like non-Western cultures, like there's the parents, you know, the respect to parents. And it's like it goes a lot, dude. Like it goes a lot more than respect. Like these type of people, like they want to like own you, like straight up like own you. And they want the ability to dish whatever they want, say whatever they want. And because they're the parent, you give respect. You can't this and that. So I ended up being repressed in a lot of ways. Like, if I'm unable to say no or stand my ground towards the people that love and care about me, if I don't have the right to do that or express myself in that way, how the hell am I going to do it outside in the real world? Like, the people who are supposed to support me and be right there behind me aren't, or they won't let me. So it's like, yeah, there was a lot of repressment. And what I mean by this is a slight towards them, because I do feel a lot of anger in a lot of ways. Because it's one thing if you have a flaw, or if there's one thing where you can like mess up, or you're not good at it, or this and that. But it's another thing to have that, but yet deny it. And still, it's one thing to deny it, yet get mad at you for bringing it up, or just mad that that aspect of themselves is brought up, you know, it's being shown. Like they didn't want to see themselves at all. and and that caused a lot of like turmoil to me, because it's like I see what's going on, I see this stuff, but I'm not allowed to like speak on it, I'm not allowed to say it. I just have to like just stay quiet and tiptoe around it. So it's like it's just a power thing, man. So by the time I got to teenage years, I didn't know how to express emotion like that, express, you know, love like that. And while at the same time, I learned that my authentic self was not me. Showing my authentic self equals pain and repercussions. So yeah, I also grew up in a very religious environment. So, you know, all the stuff that comes with that, just the shame, the judgment, the guilt, control, all that. I was growing up, I was mostly scared of them. Like, not really my mom per se, but my dad. It's like I never looked at him as, and plus I grew up with him my entire life, so it's like he was always there. And on paper you may think like, oh, that's great, like your dad was always there. But in my case, like, no, I hated that shit. Like, I love the time when he was a trucker, because that means he'd be gone for long periods of time. Because when he's around, dude, it would just be so what's the word for it? it's like I couldn't breathe, man. Just so demanding, so suffocating, like so like controlling, and it's like I'm looking back and I'm like, dude, I don't mean this to like be on some like, you know, to gas myself up, but it's like even me at like that young age, whatever, 5, 10, like I for some reason was able to have more emotional capacity and be at a higher emotional age than them. And I know it's because they went through a bunch of traumas, and like coming from a third world country, like one of the poorest countries in the world, East Africa, like I do get that, and that like they grew up in survival, you know, they were refugees and all that. Like I understand that aspect, but the thing is, you can't go through all that and have whatever issues and pretend that there's nothing wrong with you and try to demean or shame somebody else or look at other people's issues when you have all that stuff you need to take care of. Like I think a lot of parents do that. Like they look at they're so quick to look at their kids BS and the stuff, their wrongs, when it's like kids are a reflection of the parents generally. So it's like, and plus, and I think a lot of parents too, they try to live vicariously through kids. Like my dad wanted me to be like some like top 4.0, like just super smart, like great in school. And then he'd be like, oh, you know, I had good grades, this and that, like say that how he was some academic thing. I end up seeing his report card from high school, like, dude, that shit was fucking average, you know, like average as F. So growing up, I'm thinking like I'm being put to the standard that they're not even up there themselves. So it's like, so this whole time it's like it's like all this pressure on me to be a certain way, when it's like none of you guys are that. So you can't expect me to be that. And the whole, oh, kids want their parents to be better than them. Like, yeah, you can want that, but you can't demand ish, bro, especially from another person. So yeah, like I'm just realizing like, dang, there's a lot of things that like should not have. And plus like the whole physical thing, like getting the ass whooped, and like, dude, they were fucking, that shit was not, that was not good. That shit was not right. So yeah, the point of this video was just to it was just to help me process and kind of like get it off my chest, and like, because one thing I realized is when it comes to issues in life, traumatic moments or just problems, like half of it is just validating, you know. So if somebody comes to you on some like, hey, this happened, and even if it's something that can't be fixed, just being able to like be for the other person, like, hey, like I see that's what happened, or you know, like agreeing with them, or like, you know, just being seen or like validated, like that, I wouldn't say it's more than enough, but a lot of times it is enough to help somebody go through something that, you know, they went through type shit. So yeah, I'm putting this video out there not necessarily to get validation from everybody or like just people, but just so now that this video is out there, it's like, for once in my life, my story, the way I look at it, is available. It's not hidden. It's not like in the shadows, you know. I can't, it's like, yes, this is it, this is what happened. And yeah, man, people, like, there was a lot of fear used to like keep my mouth shut, and like me not speaking on the things that happened. And I'm not one to just blurt out willy-nilly, like just go try to yeah, I'm just not one to just spill the beans on everything for no fucking reason. Like, no, but when it comes to situations where like I'm getting hurt or somebody's getting hurt, or it's like, no, I'm not gonna hide that shit. Crazy, man. But yeah, in the next videos, I'm probably gonna talk about different situations, just go into the issues more. But yeah.